Hi everybody, welcome to another one of my videos of art and craft projects to do with young children. Okay, so what we're going to try and do today is a little bit of a sort of drawing and painting exercise, because I haven't really done too many of those yet on my videos. And what we're going to try and do is what I would call, I'm going to name it negative space painting, which I will explain a bit more. And this is actually a style of painting that I use in my own art practice myself, because I've mentioned that I'm an artist myself. I'm mainly a painter, and this is a technique that I use in my own work. So this is a painting that I've done, well, a copy of a painting that I did using this technique, where basically we're looking to create a sort of outline shape with a layer of paint underneath. That's going to be the first layer that we do, this very kind of colourful and you know, exciting layer, which we're going to put all over, and then we're going to draw our shape, whatever it may be, our subject matter, and then we're going to paint around these edges to leave a sort of negative space, which is our kind of object of interest in our picture. So this is an actual artwork that I did, but for the kind of thing we're going to do today, I've got, they're only little tiny ones, I just had some little bits of paper to do these. So there's an example of one I did of some flowers, another one of a bird. Don't know if hopefully it's focusing on these, and this is a kind of one of a person dancing. I'll talk more about these images in the latter stages of the video when we actually get on to doing the drawing aspect, but first thing we're going to do is look at all the materials that we need. Okay, so you will need a piece of paper. I've gone for A3 here, which is a good size, but it depends what you have at home really. I'm guessing you might have A4 or maybe A3 if you're lucky. You can even go bigger than that. This is the kind of project that lends itself quite well to being big. I know, even though I've got tiny ones, you can do quite big pictures of this. So some paper, some of this masking tape or something similar, the kind of tape that you can stick to your paper and pull it up and it's not going to tear the paper, so something like that. If you really haven't got any of this, you can use sellotape, but it's a bit more tricky, so if you have that, that's ideal. We'll need some paint, quite a lot of paint. I've gone for quite warm colours here because this is going to be my underlayer. I'm going to keep it nice and bright and colourful. And then what I've got here to do my background colour, I've gone for some acrylic paint. Because it's just a bit thicker and it's going to cover up the underlayer a bit better. So if you have some acrylic paint, go with that. If not, go with your just a dark colour of your poster paint if you don't have any acrylic. I'm going to do a bit of drawing, and we want to plan our drawing, so you'll need like a sketchbook and a pencil. You're going to need something like this. Like one of these sort of loyalty cards or store cards, obviously one that you don't need anymore. We're going to use that to do the scraping paint technique. So yeah, if you've got something like this, some sort of card, plastic card that you don't use anymore, that's ideal. If you really haven't got anything like this, you can just use a piece of card, but this is the ideal thing if you have it. And then you can see on my little pictures here where I've gone around the outline, you're going to need some sort of art material that can go over paint. So I've got here my nice art pastels. So if you have anything like that, that's great. Oil pastel would also work. Another great choice if you have them are these kind of paint pens. These work very well. But yeah, these are all kind of specialist art materials that I'm talking about. So if you don't have any of these kind of things, some chalk would work as well. Okay, so I think that's everything we need. Yeah, okay, let's start with doing the underlayer of painting. That will be our next task. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I've already started doing this, is I'm going to stick my piece of paper to the table using my masking tape. Now this is going to help when you start you know, scraping the paint on to keep it in place. And the other thing it will do is it will give you a nice border around your picture that will look really smart when you've finished. So all you want to do is take your masking tape, get it to the sort of roughly the right size that you want. Oh, it's stuck together. And then try and do it. It's worth taking your time in doing this. This is probably a job for an adult rather than a child. Try and get it so it's sort of half on your piece of paper, making a border of almost about 1 centimetre, and half off. And this will actually hopefully keep your surface a bit cleaner too, because this can get messy. So you've got a little bit of a border there. Obviously I'm doing this on just my normal table, but you would probably want to put down well, you definitely will if you value your table at all, want to put down a some sort of sheet or something first, obviously, because this can get pretty messy. Right, now what I'm actually going to do, because I'm going to make 2 pictures just to kind of demonstrate really 2 different styles for you guys. So I'm going to make another margin in the middle, but you probably, unless you want to be thrifty and get 2 pictures out of 1 piece of paper like I am, you don't need to do this. I'm just doing this by eye. You could do this a bit neater if you do want to do it. Might be that one's a bit bigger than the other, but it doesn't. In fact, it is, isn't it? That one's bigger, but hey, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to make 2 pictures. Right, and now what I'm going to do, I've got my scraper. I'm just going to start blobbing paint on. Now, kids are going to love this, but they could get a bit carried away. So yeah, just maybe make sure you're supervising this activity. Now on this one, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put them all round, just sort of randomly spread out. But on the other one, I've got another plan. This one I think is going to be my my flowers picture, like this one. Oh, where's the lens? There we are. So I didn't really do it here, but I'm thinking what I might do here is aim for having a different colour for the pot than for the flowers. So I'm going to go a different colour at the bottom than at the top. So this one, just, you know, whatever, wherever suits you. But the other one, I've got a game plan. So, oh, a bit of dried on paint, we don't really want that. So I'm just going to have a bit of pink in this one, I think. Well, that's quite thick, that's a lot of paint. Okay, not too much of that maybe. Okay, what else? A bit of purple. Yeah, this slightly more liquidy stuff is going to be good. Who can resist a little bit of fluorescent? Gives a real pop of colour. These fluorescent colours, if you have anything like this, I can't resist them. Whenever I see them, I buy them. Because I do love bright colours, as I might have mentioned before. Okay, so I'm thinking nice flower colours up there. Might be nearing enough paint here, really. Right, am I going to go like bluey green for my paint pot? Flower pot rather, not got paint on the mind. Maybe a bit of yellow in there. Okay, I might leave it at that for now. I can always add in more paint. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my scraper and just start going. Now, oh, look at that. That's a nice effect, isn't it? Now, as you do this, you will be picking up loads of paint on your scraper. So, you know, encourage your children to kind of reuse it by just taking that paint and going up somewhere else. So yeah, actually, you know what, I kind of probably did way too much. This is why actually it might be good to go big, because you're going to get left over loads of paint here. Okay, so cleaning up the paint, I've been thinking about the best way to do this. I'm going to just get myself a spare pot look, and I'm just going to scrape up that paint into my pot. Try going back over your picture if you want for some extra effects. Basically, you want to get rid of it. Okay, so while our paint's drying, let's have a look at what we can be doing in our sketchbook to come up with some images. Okay, so obviously, you know, encourage your children to think of some original ideas, whatever they like drawing, or, you know, they enjoy drawing, or they're good at drawing is totally fine. You know, whatever they would like can go in this picture, really. But just working with some of the ideas that I've suggested, like our flowers idea, okay, or our bird. I'm just showing you what my process is really in my sketchbook. So I do recommend this for planning any kind of drawing activity. I'm going to flip to a new page. Look, is actually make a sort of frame in your sketchbook for what shape page you've got. So we're going to work with sort of rectangular paper today, and then think about how your image is going to fill that space, because especially with what we're doing with our negative space, we've got these lovely scrummy colours here, and we want to be using really as much of that area inside there for our object, and using as little as possible to be that background negative space that's just going to be kind of boring one colour. So think about how your bird or flower or person or whatever it is that you want to draw is going to fill that space. So I'm going to go with my bird again. Yeah, so I ended up doing kind of planning a sort of landscape style bird, but if I wanted to do a portrait style one, I'd think about, you know, having his head right up there in the corner, and maybe beak facing forward so I'm not wasting any space. Yeah, and I'm making him have a really very generous big round tummy, and then maybe some tail feathers that are kind of coming to fill that space there. And actually I'm looking maybe I could have some wings here. Yeah, how's that going to work? I don't know, but yeah, so that's just a first idea, and then if I'm not quite happy with that one, maybe I'll try a different one. Yeah, so just keep working on your composition. It's really important here. Encourage your children to do this too. This is a really good skill for all kinds of art activities to learn. Gonna have a go at my flower one here. Now this one kind of worked from, actually I think like the taller and thinner the paper is, the better in a way, because you will end up with all this space here that you don't need. Yeah, so that kind of composition kind of makes itself really. There's not much you can do with that one, but yeah, maybe some extra flowers all around, just to really fill up all that space. And then another good tip here with this negative space thing is actually take another colour and colour in what the background is, so you can really see how much of the image is going to be left. Yeah, just also a word about drawing. I would definitely, for your children, if they want to do an animal or something like that, is get some kind of reference point. Some children are really good at drawing from their imagination, and that's great if they are. Other children will really benefit from having something to draw from. So, you know, this is where Google is your friend. Just Google images of particular animals. Also, you can bring in a little bit of art history here. So, for example, I was kind of struggling with my bird. I didn't really like any of my designs. And then I remembered that Picasso has some beautiful images, just single line drawings of birds. So my bird actually ended up being kind of slightly inspired by his dove of peace, which is a very famous image of his, which is again something I Googled. And then my man, actually, I was kind of on a roll by the time I got to my man. You'll notice I haven't really planned him at all, because I saw a great exhibition last year about the artist Keith Haring, who does these great sort of single line drawings of people a lot. So I thought, I'm going to do a Keith Haring person. So again, I just Googled Keith Haring dancing people, because I knew that that was something he's drawn a lot, and up popped this really nice image that had this great energy. So yeah, that's kind of a Keith Haring inspired person there in that image. So this is again a great way maybe to share some time with your kids, doing a bit of research into art history, and looking at the way artists approach drawing these kind of images. if you want to make it into a great big research project, there's that is quite an interesting thing to do, to look at how other artists have approached like these kind of topics, and I'm sure you'll find lots to inspire. Okay, right, I think hopefully while we've been talking our paint's dried, we can move on to the next step. So now we're going to transfer, I've got my sketchbook here as reference right next to me. We're going to try and transfer those small little sketches that we've done onto our page. Now, this is the kind of thing that kids do find really hard. I mean, hopefully now that we've planned it out, they're going to do a lovely big drawing, because that's another classic thing that children do, that they'll just do a tiny thing in the middle. So hopefully, like, they've got the idea that they're going to do it lovely and big. The next issue may be about pressing with your pencil, because obviously we don't want to ruin this lovely colour if we can help it. So we don't want to be putting big pencil lines on that we're going to have to rub out. Actually, I'll get my rubber here handy just in case I do. So what I've got here is a soft pencil. This is a 4B, that's a pretty soft pencil, and I'm going to just press with it really lightly at first. So I've started doing my bird here, and probably you can't even see my lines at the moment, so until I'm really happy with the lines I'm doing, I'm really pressing very lightly, which is really something kids struggle with in my experience. So it might be worth even doing a practice one on a plain sheet of paper first, if you want to really hammer this point home. Okay, and then see, so you can rub out on this if you've pressed lightly. You will be able to rub out any lines that you don't like. But obviously if you've pressed hard, even with a soft pencil like this one, you will leave a line. Okay, so I'm fairly happy actually with my bird. Okay, so now I've got here my my acrylic paint, my really thick paint, which I've got this very nice blue. What do they call this blue? Cobalt blue hue. This one is. Yeah. If you want to try and select something, it went really well with these small pictures. Let's see how it looks with this stuff. Okay, so now I'm painting around my shape. Now I've still got my masking tape down, so I can be quite relaxed about the edges. I am going to add just a teeny bit of water to this paint because it's so thick that it's not very easy to spread. Yeah, that's another thing just to be wary of while you're doing your drawing, is make sure that your children aren't sort of drawing vital parts of their design over the edges where the masking tape is. It can be kind of hard to tell, especially once you've got a bit of paint on there, exactly where the edge of your picture is, so just keep an eye out for that. Of course, another thing to say, which I should have probably mentioned at the beginning, is acrylic paint will definitely stain your clothes, hence why I'm wearing my tatty old clothes today. But unfortunately, a lot of the poster paint that's available on the market these days will also almost certainly stain your clothes. So you want to get your children, at the very least, in an apron, or even do what I do and just have a special set of clothes for painting for my son. He's got his own painting gear, just like Mummy's got her painting gear. That you don't mind if they get paint on it. That's the most relaxing way to do it for the parents. Okay, also another thing to say at this stage, it hasn't quite happened yet, but you might find that there's a bit of the background that you're totally in love with, that you think, wow, that looks really nice. I kind of don't want to lose that bit, but it's not part of my design. So I think I showed you earlier my painting like that. So actually that's not what the real painting looks like. Confession time. The real painting looks like this, which was partly because there was just some areas outside of the image that I just loved too much, and it kind of works. I think it worked well. So I've done enough of the blue to give you the shape, and obviously the yellow outline helps, but I have kept some of those gorgeous details from the background that I just couldn't quite bear to part with. But then I sell this as a print, and I do also, for those people that find that a bit fussy, I do have the version that's just got a plain background, which I actually did on the computer. So I feel your pain if you're finding a paint that you just really love and you can't fit it into your design. So, you know, I'm saying there are solutions. You can go quite messy and big on the brush strokes around, and decide that actually you're going to keep that bit that you really like. That's totally allowed. Right, I've got my big brush here for big areas, and then I've got my little brush work to go in and do the other shapes. Okay, so I think at this point it's just me filling in this space now. So I'm going to do this, and then we'll come back at the end when I've done it all, and then we'll go over the final stage. Okay, so here we are. I've finished painting my images now. It's pretty much dry. It's very quick drying acrylic, so it won't take long. With my bird, I kind of decided that because I did a great job of filling a lot of that space with my bird, and it just looked a bit too plain actually. So I tried it out on my sketchbook first and decided I liked it. I've added in a bit of detail on the wings and the tail feathers just to kind of break up that big space a bit. So that was kind of something I decided as I was going along, which, you know, of course art does change like that. You have to go with what feels right in the moment. Okay, so final touch, I've got my like artist pastel crayon, whatever you want to call it, and I'm just going to go over the outline to really make it pop. Yeah, so I've chosen yellow, which is again what I did on these little ones, because obviously looking at our colour wheel, yellow and blue are complementary colours. I don't know, I debated doing a different colour maybe that could have gone in there and done those lines as well perhaps, but yeah, this is what I did on the other ones, and I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so I'm just going to go round the outside to give it, yeah, look, I mean, yellow and blue, you can't argue with that, it just really pops. And I've got my blue inner line details, but this, yeah, just gives it really good. Although the colours on the inside are kind of light and kind of go with the yellow, but the yellow and the blue are a great contrast, so it's quite a nice way to go around the outside. Okay, now so with my flowers, I don't know if you can see how well you can see it from there, but I did this quite roughly, and I have left some space, a bit like I showed you on my other painting, because I like that texture. You know, you don't always have to do the neatest painting. Sometimes something that's a little bit rough and kind of got that energy about it can look really good. So, you know, actually the way kids paint really lends itself to that. So you have my permission to do that, to leave some space. Look, I could have maybe gone round the front of my pot. No, it looks quite nice. So, and I mentioned I was going to do this earlier. I'm going to make the stems up now. I didn't try and paint round them while I was painting on my blue background. I'm just putting them in now, and they pop nicely against that blue background. There we go, just going all the way around. Now I am actually going to use my yellow to go inside now to make my flower shapes as well. Yeah, it doesn't stand out that much against your painted background, but it stands out enough, I think, that we can see the flower shapes, and it is a nice colour that's working nicely there, so we'll go with that. And then what you might want to do, it's kind of not obligatory, but let's choose another colour. Oh, yeah, the pink that I did on the little one works quite nicely to give yourself and again, maybe do it kind of in a slightly messy way and leave a little bit of space there. That looks quite nice. Okay, right, so those are my pictures. Now, yeah, I think has given that one a nice energy. I think maybe that one's working better than the bird. Hi there, okay, I'm back one more time just to show you the final piece. So here's my bird picture, which again I've slightly altered once more just to break up that big area again. So I've gone around the outline with my yellow chalk pastel, and I've removed all the masking tape from around the edge, and that's my final piece. Yeah, and there's the other one, the flowers. I think I prefer this one of the two. Again, I've gone around it with the yellow, just spotted a line that I didn't do there. And yeah, I think this one's worked out particularly well of the two. Just one final tip about this work. If you do use something like an artist pastel like that, you'll notice that these lines will smudge a bit. Look, I've just spotted this one too, it's smudged a little bit here. So what you can do with that, there's this stuff called artist fixative spray you can spray them with that will stop the pastel smudging, but it's pretty expensive and obviously it's kind of a specialist thing. But what you may very well have at home is some just any old kind of hairspray, which works not quite as well as fixative spray but pretty well. So all you want to do if you do want to fix it is a light spray from about sort of this kind of distance. Just spray it over the, you can kind of do the whole picture really, but you know, obviously you particularly want to get the bits that have got pastel on them, and that should fix it then so that it won't smudge anymore. It kind of acts, I've done it with these, it kind of acts almost like a bit of a varnish. So that's just another little tip just to finish off the activity. So thank you for watching. If you do have a go at this, I hope you make an image that you're pleased with, and yeah, I hope it was fun. Okay, thanks, bye.